Welcome to the Messy City Podcast, where we talk with the people who design, plan, build, develop, or even just think about how to create beautiful, successful, and humane cities and towns. Let's learn from each other and create places we truly care about. Welcome back to the Messy City Podcast. This is Kevin Klinkenberg. Screwing around with the dash here. I think I can just mute that one. So I think we're good. We're gonna have some fun today. So when this one, whenever I get around to dropping this one, it's going to be episode number 100 of the Messy City Podcast, which is pretty wild to think about. When you start one of these, it's like, am I going to do more than like 2 episodes? It's, how long before I get bored with it? And it's turned out to be a lot of fun, and had a ton of great guests, and I'm looking forward to doing more. But I wanted to bring back the Kansas City crew and celebrate 100 together, because I've got 2 guys here who've both been on multiple times and who are just a lot of fun to talk to. So I've got Shomari Benton and Jason Carter-Solomon here with me. Thanks,
go, man.
Thanks, fellas.
Congrats.
Episode 100. Congratulations.
Yeah. Hey,
it's a big deal.
Congratulations to you as well.
It's good to be here.
You are an integral part of the show.
I feel esteemed.
like us 3. Is this number 3 or 4? Us 3, because you've been on a few times.
I have been on a few times. I think this may be my. God, Kevin, this is my 4th time.
Because you're 4th.
Yeah.
I think so.
And I know you and I have at least been on twice together.
So this is number 3, I think.
Have I been on? Okay, but then Abby.
You were on with Abby once. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Abby Nusha, but you were on with Abby.
I was on with Abby Wendell, my boss.
Right.
Yeah.
Were you on with Andrew Ganal? Or was that
Have
Abby
we done
and
one with Andrew? I don't think we've done one with Andrew.
I have had him on twice, I think. Once solo and once with a guest.
So this is becoming like Saturday Night Live. This is like the 3, 4, 5 time club.
Yeah.
The guests.
I'm gonna try to get myself invited back. We'll see after today.
Yeah.
I mean,
I might get the invited.
It's like when everyone thought Eddie Murphy.
Anything's possible. It's episode 100.
It's like when everyone thought Eddie Murphy was part of SNL, and then you find out later on in life, like, he was just a frequent guest of SNL during the 80s.
Wait a minute, is that true?
He was never part of.
He was never a cast.
He was never cast.
I think this is like a Mandela moment. Ever heard of that?
Look it up, brother.
Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Like
or the Bernstein Bears.
Mandela effect, the Bernstein Bears. Yeah. Okay, so I feel like that's not true.
Yeah,
because
the audience could easily Google it.
Google
this
it.
This is a whole thing for SNL.
We'll include it in the show notes.
Yeah, I don't know. I would have thought he was a regular guy, but maybe he wasn't.
After we do this, let's look it up.
Yeah, because he was on there a lot.
Yeah. Gumby.
Yeah. Interesting. All right.
I'll be your Jamie here real quick. You guys keep talking.
You're going to be Jamie and look it up.
Yeah.
So
that's hilarious.
All right. Well, Shomari always brings some interesting fact to the show.
Last time we went on a diatribe about Kendrick.
That's right. We did.
And Tupac.
That
was hilarious.
That's right.
Yeah.
Was that during the Kendrick Drake beef?
It was.
Okay.
It was.
Yeah.
Let me put it to you this way. So to recap that situation, to be clear, and I've had this bit in our Facebook, not in our Facebook group, but in our friend text string.
Yeah.
If I got bodied like that as a banker, right? If someone was like, "Hey, I'm gonna shame you so bad," and I took that public of an L, I would stop banking. Yeah. I would not be a banker anymore.
Oh yeah.
I feel like you got to hang it up.
Yep.
It's a wrap. Like, Drake took that big of an L. And I like Drake. He's fine. I mean, I don't know the truth behind some of the accusations. Indeed. To be clear, I am not supporting any of that stuff. But if I got bodied, if I took that big of an L, I think I'd be done.
Yeah.
Hang it up.
Yeah.
Well, you're not Canadian, so.
I'm not Canadian. That's good. I have a Canadian family, though, so if they listen to this, I'm not hating on Canadians either. I love the Six. I got a lot of family.
Toronto's amazing. Toronto's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, took a big L. What else did we talk about that episode?
Man, we went through a whole.
We didn't talk about St. Louis that episode.
That was
we talked about
we
something
did.
else.
We did.
Okay.
We started St. Louis. We also had a little disagreement on beauty matters and the
whole drugstore thing,
the pharmacy,
Yes.
the pharmacy deal.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we had a
think
gamut of subject matters.
I think that was like the 2.5 hour episode.
Gosh, that was 2.5 hours.
Yeah, I think that was like the Rogan special.
Okay.
So what? One thing I want to do today. There's some stuff I want to get into for sure. Now that's a little more personal. That's talking to you guys about like what's behind you and what's ahead of you. But I also think it'd be interesting to, since we are at episode number 100, and I know of course that you guys have listened to every single episode.
Yes.
As loyal listeners, you've listened to every one. I know it. I'm curious what who might have stood out to you as guests, things that were memorable to you, that were not part of our discussions, that people you've heard or things that stuck out in your mind that from the podcast.
You've had some great guests over, I think, the past 12 months. I listened to the one with Audrey. I thought that was a really good episode.
Audrey's great.
I will tell you one of the most inspiring ones. Obviously, when you talk to Monty Anderson, like very, very inspiring. But you talked to a gentleman out of Oklahoma, maybe it was Oklahoma City, who is building kind of town center type developments.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah. So
I'm trying to remember what his name was, because he has an Instagram that's great.
So there were two. I don't know if I want to make sure. There was Austin Tennell, who does the masonry buildings.
That one
outside in Edmond, Oklahoma.
Yep.
And
yeah. You know what is so inspiring about that to me? I relate to Austin. I think in a parallel universe, I would have been in Austin, frankly, is that he was a guy who, and I'm trying to remember his backstory. So forgive me, Austin, if hopefully I get a chance to meet you one day. I don't want you to think
we can do the road trip one day.
I don't want you to think I'm an asshole for not remembering your CV. But if I remember correctly, he kind of took a non-traditional path from a professional standpoint and really embraced the trades.
Yeah.
And someone who is so intellectually curious, but also, I'm going to say, spatially curious around craftsmanship is always inspiring to me, because I feel like it's a lost interest by a lot of people. I know we talk about blue collar trades versus professional careers and all of those things in our lexicon today. But one of the things I think we really have to, raise folks like this up as heroes is because beauty does matter.
It does matter.
And someone that is so intellectually curious and spatially curious to understand the construction means and methods, not just as a way of profit motive, but also curating beauty, is like this magic intersection of art, right? That I think real estate can be. Placemaking can be art.
Yeah.
It is its own expression. And that's what I got out of his podcast, is that he's trying to curate an art in placemaking that really comes down to how do we handle everything from literally the bricks and sticks to placement, design, site, curation of design, right? Like those things are so important, and we lose sight of them so quick in our world today, based upon just only looking at return thresholds.
Yeah. And Austin's fat. He's got his own podcast called Building Culture, which is actually the name of his company too. And it's great. He has a lot of really cool guests on there that many of whom I'd never heard of before, but it's fascinating. I think about like the journey of like my own career and how interesting that is, because when I like went to college, anybody who was talking about making stuff like he does, which is traditional brick masonry. Well, first of all, almost nobody was talking about that. And if they were, it was strictly from like a historic preservation standpoint. Like this is something that like an ancient culture of humans did, centuries ago, which we can't do in our modern age. And with what Austin and then Clay Chapman, who was his mentor, have really figured out is that no, it's not like that. In fact, you can build these things today. There's a price that you pay. There's a premium, but there's also incredible value, incredible long-term value in what they're doing. And then I think Austin has kind of taken what Clay has done. Clay, and I love Clay as well. Clay is really an artist in a lot of ways, and he has a very much of an artist mentality. I don't think he would deny that. Austin is really turning that into a business and really trying to figure out how you make a financially viable model out of what they're trying to do. So, and some of that's just like next generation thinking. And so I agree. I think that was super cool.
I think it's next generation, but it's also old generation thinking that we can pick some things up from.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you said something, and hopefully we dive into this. You talked about this being your episode 100, and then, you know, you said getting a little personal and talking about what's ahead of you versus what's behind of you. I hope we dive into that today, because I think that's a critical component to think about. I think in one of our earlier conversations on this podcast, and I've done this on others, is understanding what your why is, right? The intention behind a thing is often more important than the thing. And as we get older in our lives, we quickly, somehow, it's engineered this way for some reason, we lose sight of this to where the thing becomes the thing. The intention is lost. And I think that is such a soul-robbing condition of adulthood. You know what I mean? Because when we're young, we really think about the intention behind the thing, and that spurs the imagination. We then get conditioned to believe that just the thing that we're doing is the thing, the practicality of it is all that matters. And so the imagination, the creativity, and the soul-inspiring components of it get washed away, and we're taught to think that those things are ridiculous. Why would you do that? If you can't make a 10% cash on cash and a 22% IRR, why would you be doing something? And that's a dangerous mindset, I think. Sorry.
No, that's real talk. And I think a lot of that in terms of what's your why and getting into the nuts and bolts of the thing is because people have to make a living. Most of us have a mortgage. Most of us have expenses for our children and aging parents and so on and so forth. And, you know, this is somewhat of a double-edged sword, but I think my wife and I think about this position a lot, that, you know, sometimes these projects are babies because we don't have children, right? And we're able to take some haircuts. We're able to ride some things out more than others because, you know, we don't have children to feed, right? And so your point's well taken, and I think you know, for most folks, they have that intentionality, they have that passion. I think one should recognize that they are blessed if they know that, right? But life.
Oh, brother, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, dude, you know my situation. I mean, I'm a full-time single dad, right? And it's like I wouldn't trade my daughter's role in my life for anything. But there's real practical concerns around all those things. So I agree with you.
Yeah. I remember it was like one of the things this conversation reminds me of is when I ran my own business. And when we started in the first couple of years, it was a real struggle to figure out like which work to take on. Right. So first of all, we were young and dumb, didn't know anything about business, and we're also a little desperate to make money. So we would take most anything that came our way. But after about a year of that, you could really quickly see what I used to tell people in later years is you got to be careful because the work you do ends up becoming the work you do. And you start taking on a certain type of clientele, whether you want to or not. And all of a sudden what happens is you develop an expertise in that. You know, you can develop it pretty quickly. And then everybody's calling you to do that thing. And then you're 10 years into it and you're like, shit, is this actually the work that I really want to be doing? And that can happen really fast. And you can really lose sight of why you were trying to do that thing originally. And we did that. We did a lot of things that were actually absolutely part of the plan and things we wanted to do. But there was a whole aspect when we had our business, when Brian and I started that business, we developed all these stock house plans, not because we wanted to get in the stock house plan business, but because we wanted to develop property.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Mm-hmm. We wanted to develop infill property. And we wanted to start out with that by just designing some houses that we would design and build. And half the intention of us starting a business was we were going to develop our own stuff. And over the course of about a decade of having that business, we essentially did almost none of that because we got busy with clients and trying to provide good service to clients and trying to grow the business. And then once you start growing the business, then you're thinking about all the mouths that you're trying to feed with your employees, and who become in a small business, a lot of your employees become your friends.
Yes.
And so it just kind of feeds on itself. And then all of a sudden we were like, crap, we never really did this development thing that we were wanting to do. So it's just like, it's weird. It was, none of that was bad. It's just that it was like, that was not where we had planned to go.
Is there some regret there? Like,
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. When a lot of the episodes that I like to do, I really like to share some of these things with younger people in particular, especially just because I'm an architect, younger architects, younger people who touch development, because I want people to understand some of the things that we did right and wrong. And one of the things we did wrong was we were two guys educated with an architecture degree. We didn't know jack shit about running a business. We didn't know anything about development.
Two different skill sets.
Yeah. We didn't know anything about development finance. And so I think a big part of why we never actually developed anything is because we were scared, because we didn't understand the development finance side of things.
100%.
And we were scared to try it. We didn't know what the risk was, or how you take risk, or how you mitigate risk. And it was just so much easier to keep doing fee-for-service work and keep going that route, as opposed to really understanding how to do a development project ourselves.
So you thought you pressed the easy button? Is that what I'm? Yeah.
Yeah. And
or in hindsight, you look back and feel like you pressed the easy button.
Yeah. I mean, well, like none of it was easy, but I know what you mean. And I think it's more like, we should have leaned harder into really understanding how to finance projects and do them. I think if we just taken more time to do that, we would have developed and built more stuff ourselves.
Is that your biggest life regret?
Oh man, that is a big question.
Clink said, I'm here to ask the question.
Dude, this is episode 100. Your audience knows you by now. They want to hear more about you. So we're doing the mutual exchange.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is definitely a part of that is I have very few regrets. I'm a very fortunate guy.
Indeed.
If something awful happened to me tomorrow, that would suck, but I've done a lot of great things, and had a lot of happiness, and good things happen. But
you've done a lot of good for a lot of communities.
Well, sometimes, yeah. I'm trying. I think we all try in our own way. But there's no question. You and I talked about this one time, Jason, that I always had an itch to scratch doing development that has never been adequately scratched.
Right.
And I remember when I was back in architecture school, we had a guy come in and give a presentation. I think probably must have been my sophomore year, who was a developer in Lawrence. And he was the developer of like the whole Alvamar community, which was like this big golf course community on the west side of Lawrence. So this is, 89, 90, somewhere around there. So, golf course community development, that was a big thing back then. And it was really sexy. And anyway, he came in and he gave this talk, and he talked about being a developer. And at that time, I remember thinking, that's what I want to do. Yeah. I want to do what that guy does. Not necessarily that I wanted to develop the sort of things he was doing, but I loved what he talked about. And so that itch has always been there. And that's the one thing that I really haven't done that I'd definitely like to do more of.
Yeah. Why do you want to develop?
I think I just love the creative aspect of building things, seeing them built, and really creating community. You know, I don't think the layperson thinks developers create community, you know, but that's really what developers do. And so some do it really well and some don't do it really well. But in essence, that's what you're doing. That's definitely what you're doing down at Vine. And that's the sort of thing that I have always been most interested in, is like, you're creating awesome places, if you do it right, or if you're fortunate, that people love and that will be around for a long period of time.
You could touch it, feel it.
Yeah.
It's also one of those things in life that's both an art and a science.
Yeah. Yeah. No doubt.
If you're doing it well, at least. And I don't think most things that folks experience have the combination of the subjective and the objective.
Yeah.
That touches, you know, both sides of the brain and the right type of construction, rehab touches that. And it's an awesome feeling when you get there.
Mm-hmm.
Part of that awesome feeling is because it's so dang hard.
Yeah.
So when you get there, it's so fulfilling. And so yeah, I definitely, you know, that scratch, once you see it and once you experience, is pretty easy to explain. But until you experience it, like, mm-hmm. you know, it's difficult to verbalize it.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Yeah. There's a Japanese kind of proverb or saying, and I'm going to butcher it. So again, for those who might know it, excuse me. It's oftentimes the journey towards the thing more than getting to the mm-hmm. thing that matters.
Yeah.
And for those of us who have had the opportunity to do hard things, and I use that word intentionally, opportunity, what you realize is the magnificent feeling of accomplishment mm-hmm. to see something that you visualize come to fruition. For sure. Mm-hmm. And it is an obsession.
For sure.
Yeah.
If the intent is there.
Yeah.
Sounds like your intent is there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a dream worth pursuing. It's a objective worth pursuing. I go back to the very practical conflict with where we've been conditioned as adults, right? All of us around the table are over 40. I'll leave it at that.
The youngest one in the group is the one who brings it up.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, right? I know. You gotta love that. It's because I'm feeling older than my age. What's so fascinating to think, there's these, again, mix a little like very introspective philosophy with pop culture. There are these memes on Facebook and Instagram right now where have been somehow in my feed or algorithm where it shows a guy or gal sitting, you know, somewhere on a deck or wherever, going, looking back and thinking that 16 or 18 seemed like yesterday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And they're playing some nostalgic tune.
Yeah.
I very much relate to that because I can sit here today and sometimes I look in the mirror and I go, who the hell is this guy looking back at me?
Yeah.
With the gray hair and all of that. And I remember who I was then.
Mm-hmm.
There's a magic that you lose as you get older, but I'm kind of convinced part of the secret spice of life is not completely letting go of it.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I mean. I think the benefit of getting older is that you have this wisdom that you have fought, clawed for, bled for, right? Mm-hmm. And you're still standing. You also remember who you were at that point mm-hmm. when you had those dreams, ambitions, and the world was your oyster.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not convinced that you have to completely let go. I think mm-hmm. as long as you have your health
and
your family's health, there's always, I like to say, every day you get up and you're vertical, it's another chance to do it again. Right.
Yeah.
So it's like reaching back and grasping that magical imagination and matching it with today's tenacity, intestinal fortitude, and wisdom. What could be more powerful to get the thing that is in your heart's desire?
Well said.
Right. So I want to encourage you not to let go of that. Right. The young Kevin's still in there. I see him all the time.
I like young Kevin.
And young Kevin's great, by the way. Young Kevin and I like to party.
Yeah. Middle-aged Kevin's cool too.
Middle-aged Kevin's cool. Young Kevin. For guys that know Kevin, everybody knows Kevin's good time. No, Kevin, you become one of my closest friends. I mean, along with Shomari and, a couple other people in this town, Dude, I just see the amount of creativity and wisdom that you have in you. At the same time, you're one of the more inspirational figures in our city. And I'm not saying that because I'm on your podcast and I'm trying to juice you up to get invited again so I can get a record.
150, baby. 150th episode.
But
he's going for the co-host.
Like, we need, in today's world, we need that.
Yeah.
For sure.
Do you understand what I mean?
No,
we need that.
Yeah.
We're losing it. We need more and more of that.
Man.
Yeah, I think
that's amazingly said.
No, I think it is well said. And it's interesting that, there's different things that you have at different points in your life. And when you're younger, when I was younger, I was a really ambitious guy, worked a lot.
Yep. Same.
And it's funny you mentioned that, like, looking back, because I think about I have in my rear view mirror a little bit that it seems to me like it was yesterday that I was always like the youngest guy in the room.
I remember those days, too.
Yeah. For whatever was going on. And I was on a lot of like boards when I was in my 20s, which was just kind of weird. But, and now I look around and I'm often one of the oldest guys in the room, which is kind of funny. But there are a lot of things that change. I remember there was a point maybe 10 years ago or so when I was doing some work and I was thinking to myself, one of the cool things about getting older is I really feel like I see so much about how things work better. I have such a clear sense of understanding of things that work and don't work, and what to do about them. It doesn't mean you're always going to be right, but
that's right.
But I feel like I can call my shots a whole lot better now than I used to be able to.
Indeed.
Things that used to be a lot of guesswork. Or things that, like, a lot of times I was maybe more repeating patterns or things that other people had taught me, which is fine. That you got to do that when you're young. It's good to learn from people who are more experienced and know what the hell they're talking about. But then you cross a threshold at some point where you realize, oh shit, like everything's coming together now. I really see it. I see the game.
Right.
And I understand how to make it work for me.
I understand this feeling 100%. Yeah. It is exactly where I feel like I'm at today.
Yeah.
It's a mix of like confidence and trusting your gut.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah.
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 For sure.
Yeah. So what, so then one of the questions I was going to ask, like, what, if you look over like the last 5 or 10 years of stuff that you've done, we'll start with Shomari this time. You've got multiple projects under your belt now in Vine. Like, how do you look back at that work now that like there's a bunch of stuff in the rear view mirror? Sure. You've got other stuff that's ongoing, but how do you look at that compared to how you looked at it when you started all that?
Sure. So we talked about not losing that kind of childlike ambition and dream mind, if you will, and these projects and approaching them the way that I and my partners have been able to do falls into that category. But I would suggest to folks, all that being said, is don't start with the most difficult stuff. In hindsight, again, I'm not regretting it. It's been a great opportunity. It's been a dream of mine, both being involved in the projects, having my own law firm. I've basically created my own professional space, and you can't really put me in a box. And I enjoy that immensely. That did not come with an immense amount of pain, both personally and professionally. and I do not suggest it.
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm standing, I'm fine. It's, it's all good. But I would, if someone was to ask me if I could learn from you and do something different, I would say scale up. Take on some things that are a little less complex. Learn from those, grow that, so on and so forth. It's not to say that you can't take on the complex things. Like, obviously, like that's all of us are doing that in some form or fashion. But it's hard. It's really, really hard.
What do you think you learned along the way that you might have learned more effectively on a smaller project to start with?
The finance side, the relationship with contractor side, the navigation of municipal process. At the end of the day, my advantage is my practice. But any real estate development attorney who has not done that themselves will tell you representing someone is different than actually doing the gig. And with that said, I would suggest to any real estate development attorney who's listening to this, do 1 or 2 projects of your own at least, because representing someone and doing it yourself, it really will open up your eyes as to all the moving parts, right? Typically we're hired to navigate City Hall, etc. That's just one piece of the overall puzzle, and your client is looking at the global picture, and you will become a better attorney if you understand the global picture. So let's set that aside.
Yeah, for sure. By the way, same thing's true for architects.
Indeed.
I would argue it's a very similar situation for bankers, except most bankers will not go do their own projects or do things for a lot of different reasons. But I will tell you, having done my own projects, I can 100% attest to the truth in what you're saying. I became a better banker by doing my own projects. I knew exactly, by screwing up on my own projects, the ability to have compassion for the developer or investor, and where to relax versus where to exercise a little more structure and caution and risk mitigation, both to help them, but also to deploy capital in a responsible fashion for the bank.
That's amazingly said. So it's funny you say that, JCS. So you asked, what the last 5 years, what have I learned? And this is somewhat counterintuitive, I think. Just practicing, just the nature of being a lawyer, I guess. I don't want to downgrade my profession too much. I love what I do, and I love the people who are in the practice. But sometimes you get a know-it-all mentality, and when you experience this, you actually become a better listener. You actually become.
Oh my gosh! So true.
When I talk to Jason, and Jason's like, "Hey, bruh, like, you got to get XYZ together, right? Or this deal's not happening." Instead of taking that as an ego hit, it's like, okay, let me listen to my lender. Let me learn from what he's trying to tell me as his profession, right? And so I think out of the multitude of things I've learned from trying to tackle these projects, I think that is top of the line, and that could be the beauty of that could be applied to multiple things in your life, right? Whether it's at home or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You're such an astute listener. And also, you do not, because full disclosure, Shomari is a client of mine. You never let the noise distract you from the end objective and result, but not in a way that's either unkind or arrogant. It is, hey, okay, what result do I want? What result do you want? How do we meet either in the middle or get to the same results? And you act accordingly. Every single time I've been in a discussion with you on a business concern, we're also friends, which
that helps.
It may help or make it more difficult. I don't know. I mean, frankly, I know I probably have worn you out at times just by my matter of factness and directness with you, which, believe it or not, is probably, well, I think you know this. It's not, I don't temper myself with you because we are friends.
I think that's good.
But only because I want to see you get the result you want. And then every single time we end up being able to listen to each other and go, okay, how do we get the objective done?
That's right.
Let's get to the objective.
There's a lesson in that, by the way. Like not tempering yourself just because you're friends. Right.
You think so?
Yeah.
I often think it's one of my downfalls, if I'm being honest.
No, I think a lot of times we tell our friends what they all want to hear. And that's not necessarily what's good for them. And I've certainly had people tell me stuff that they thought I wanted to hear over time. And you can feed somebody's ego really easily, especially if it's your buddy, but that may, like in an extreme scenario, you might have somebody who's a complete drunk and they're like, oh, you don't have a problem. It's all good. But no, like honestly, like a real friend is like, you got a problem.
Set you aside.
You got to do something about that.
Do it with tact, and do it with love.
Right.
Yeah. I think the intentionality behind said thing matters.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
But be honest.
Right.
To your point, you expect close family and friends to be honest.
Right.
With love.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So what about you for the last, if you went back 10 years to you being a young pup, because I know you're so much younger.
That would place me in my 30s.
What's changed in your outlook if you look back over that period of
time? Recently I've started selling people. Younger me would be abhorred at the things older me would say or has said or thinks. I don't love that, if I'm being honest. If I would, you asked me what I would change,
or just like what has changed for you.
I think what has changed is that I've probably become a little more cynical about the world. I wouldn't say a little bit. I would say a lot more cynical about the way the world works. That has to do with the present condition of society. But probably less so, frankly, is just really understanding the way the world works.
Yeah.
And to be clear, I mean, not going to mince words, capital rules everything. Money rules everything.
Yeah.
I'm a unapologetic capitalist. And I've always been an unabashed capitalist. But I've also believed that, hey, there is an intersection between capitalism and compassion. Unfortunately, I don't know how true that is. I think it's a choice. It's not a casual collision. I wish there was more of a casual collision between capitalism and compassion. There is not. I think we can choose those things. It's playing out in a very messy fashion in a lot of different rooms and situations and industries. So what do we do about that is, I guess, where I'm at today. Like, what is the choice I make for my life, my career, my activity, the way I spend my energy? I think that's where I'm at today. I think I'm still shifting through that. I will tell you, my heart probably leans more towards compassion than capitalist. And I'm not apologetic about that either. I think business occurs because of people. It's easy to forget that all the numbers on a spreadsheet, all the numbers on a financial statement are the result of individual human beings.
Yeah.
People matter. Relationships matter. Right? So that means if you believe that, then how do you conduct yourself when doing business? How do you conduct yourself just out in the world? How do you intersect other humans, right? And collide with other humans in a way that hopefully leaves them better than they were before you ran into them, right? Doesn't mean that you're not going to fall down, that you're not going to have messy interactions, right? Again, one of my biggest, and I'm going to tell myself right now, hopefully no one's from the Midtown Home Depot is listening. But I always say, you always know when a project of mine is went south, when I turn up at Home Depot after that project, returning a bunch of materials that I overbought and, getting right. And it's hilarious. Like they are busy at that store. Right. And I know I've had some interactions at that store, for instance, that, not great, not like terrible, but just like, hey, like guys, you guys have a policy. I'm reading your policy. You're like, right? It's like, I even think about interactions like that. I'm at the point where I think about interactions like that, and I think, okay, right now, today, that happened. I know maybe in the past I may have been a little bit like, throwing my weight around or whatever and trying to, just adjudicate by the letter of the law. But at the end of the day, that's a person. And this is like a very minor thing, right? I'm bringing up something trivial for a reason. That person's there to do a job. That's how they feed their family, right? If they tell me no, it's not a personal slight. And even if it is, what difference does it make, right? My job in that interaction is to show up as kind and as rational as I can. And if I get a no, I get a no.
Right.
So what? At the end of the day, will that matter in the grand scheme of things for my success? Right? I can tell you what won't be helpful is admonishing someone or being unkind in a situation that no one deserved it.
Yeah.
Right. And so I'm trying to really rebalance my focus with utilizing the wisdom and the experience that I have to make sure that when I show up in situations, even the most trivial ones, being at a restaurant, I always try to remember the person's name that's serving.
Sure.
And call them by their name.
Yeah.
Why? Because the world's crazy. We may not agree on things. We may not have the same temperament about things. Yeah. But you know what I can do is I can show up in that interaction while that person is serving me, helping me have a good experience, make their job a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I want to do that because in business, that's what I want to be known for. So why would I not conduct myself that way in all facets that I can? Again, doesn't mean I'm not going to have messed up interactions. Right. But part of business, frankly, and I think this is a really important point around determining whether or not you want to be an entrepreneur or not. It's about being able to have difficult conversations well. If you can't show up when things are going like just mediocre, right, and regulate your emotions in a situation, then what's going to happen when things blow up? Because guess what? Things are going to blow up.
Oh, yeah. It's
guaranteed.
Inevitable.
The most rational the most rational person in the room always wins.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, whenever there's a heated moment, the person who stays calm, that's the person who wins.
100%.
There's a saying that, and I'm gonna butcher this a little bit, but people tend to forget what you said, but they remember how you made them feel.
Yep. Absolutely.
Right? And I think about what Jason just said, and it's almost metaphysical, right? The question was more like grounded in like what are the lessons learned in the last 5 to 10 years professionally, but I think maybe this relates to getting older. I don't know.
Yeah.
You get a little bit more soft, a little bit more sensitive, and and I think JCS's example relates to that, right? And it's not just all pen and paper. It's not just all numbers.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I agree with JCS in that 9 times out of 10, you're dealing with people, and everyone has good days, bad days, and everything in between. And if we're able to recognize that, I think it makes your professional interactions within this space easier.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things that you are really good at. I think one of the things I've noticed about you over the time we've gotten to know each other is you have a real knack for seeing the good in just about everybody. And treating people really well, no matter who they are.
I appreciate that.
But yeah, I mean, I think that's one thing that we joked about. You got like this sort of almost like the Buddha mentality, right? But and people have said that about me too. But I think you take it to a different level. One thing I've noticed a lot in our interactions that you have, whether it's you've always been that way or it's something you've learned how to do over time, but you seem to really pause to like see the good in somebody first and foremost.
Yeah, I think we both align in that way. And again, a lot of this comes just with experience and growth. All of us have had ups and downs in life, and hopefully you can learn from some of those things. And, a couple of the downs in my life, I have learned and tried to practice that. We're all human, so I fail in that sometimes. But I think particularly in the city we live in, and most American cities are like Kansas City, right? Most American cities are medium-sized, 1 million to 2 million people in their metro, so on and so forth. And when you live in cities like that, the degrees of separation are much smaller than your New Yorks and LAs of the world. And just to stay on track in terms of this space, the built environment, et cetera, I think it would behoove all folks, whether you live in a major global city or a medium-sized American city, but particularly if you live in a medium-sized American city, know that those degrees of separation are small.
Yeah.
And that in the moment you might feel a certain way, but that person knows your cousin. That person knows your mama.
Reputations get around.
And it does not take long for that to be put on the table for multiple people that you are going to interact with. So it's not to be burdened by it. It's not to be a weight, but it's to be conscious of it. And I think it's really important. And at the end of the day, it's just good to be like a decent human being and just treat people kind of, don't be a pushover. Right.
Right.
But as much as is realistic, treat people kindly. Yeah. And I think generally speaking, there are some exceptions to this, but generally that comes in return.
I think it 100% does. And it may not come back immediately. It may be years down the line, but eventually it does.
Because it's all about people, right?
Yeah.
So where I was going before is the reason why I'm thinking so like in the micro around interactions, not because I'm even trying to be overly touchy-feely per se. It's that if you recognize the fact that people are the value in all of this, right? Everything happens because of people, the financial results, all of it, right? You then start to think about, okay, what does success actually mean? It's not the stuff you're going to get, right? It's the impact you're going to have. I mean, I'm fortunate enough to have known people who have had impacts in my life that were not monetary. They were very emotional. And those things were their legacy. The impact they had on me were their legacy. They were not the richest entrepreneur or real estate guru or whatever. But that impact is going to live on, right? And so what do you want your legacy to be, right? But I do remember a point in my life, you were talking about looking back and looking forward and thinking about, okay, I remember wanting to be so successful. And I watched people who were successful run over people and thinking that was the way to be successful and trying to emulate that. And I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus and like go back in history, right? And talk about that. But I wrongfully think I have tried to emulate that some of my career by being a tough negotiator or whatever you want to call it, right? And Shomari knows me. I mean, you guys both know. You guys watch me in action. I am a very direct person, but I also
You're a truth teller.
I believe clarity is kindness, right?
I agree
to be clear is to be kind. However, when we think about like, okay, if you're aiming for success, it's going to take other people. What does that mean? That means, okay, like, yeah, everyone's 1 or 2 or 3 degrees removed. And so it's not like minding your P's and Q's so that, I'm scared what people think of me.
Right.
Yeah, I'm at a point in my life where I really don't care what people think of me.
Indeed.
It's very freeing. But I do care how people that matter to me feel. And I care about the outcome and the results that those people have and that I have. And I do want to be successful, but I also want them to be successful. So what do you do in order to be successful if you know that people are the end results or one of the means to be successful? Well, you treat everybody in a way that they want to come back.
Yeah.
Right. You also figure out how to curate interactions that make people feel like, one, it's safe, it's authentic, right? And there's mutual benefit aligned. So when we talk about going and talking to younger entrepreneurs like you do a lot and you do a lot, right? We can have another podcast and talk about we've had these podcasts. We talk about the X's and O's of banking and real estate finance, so on and so forth. Here's the deal. Treat every interaction like it matters, because it does matter. And guess what? Like everything you do in the way you treat people will create opportunities if you have an abundance mindset around, okay, nothing in my hand needs to be held so tight, right? I can have an open palm and give of it freely, because that will come back. People will feel that. Mm-hmm. It's happened to me in my life. I've watched it. So the best advice I can give someone, if they want to do something, if they want to be in real estate, they want to be a business owner, go out into the world with an open hand, right? And everyone may not meet you there, but you're going to be surprised the number of people that do, and just keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Because that will create momentum, and you will learn, you will gain things, you will get interactions that will introduce you to other connections, because it's all back to this people component.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. Like,
yeah,
I know oftentimes, like, you know, in our space, people tend to get esoteric, and for good reason, right? Like, there's a lot of moving parts to what we all do in our space, but also there is a almost metaphysical, like broader side to this, and maybe it's good to talk about this in episode 100. Like, what's the ultimate goal? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Right. What's the broader point? And I think what we're all are talking about is healthy to actually like raise that question, get out of the day-to-day machine, right? And step back and what's the purpose? Like,
right.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
And no, I agree. And I for me, I think it's a great question. Great point. I've thought about a lot of my involvement and efforts as really trying to create meaningful human communities, whether I'm trying to design something or build something or develop something. And so that has oftentimes left me at odds with a lot of people. So they're like, I have nothing but respect for business people who start a business, whether they're a home builder, a developer, real estate agent, whatever, and they're making a buck. I have nothing but respect for all that. At the same time, I have run up against a lot of people in our world who are solely focused on the numbers and the bottom line. And I ask hard questions and push them like, what the hell are we trying to create here? You know, is this really just about, you know, whatever is going to maximize your profit? Or are you really trying to create something that's going to be good for humans? Because to me, that's like the ultimate tell is like, are we creating something that is long enough lasting that humans, so like the way that my friend architect Steve Mouzon talked about it is, you know, are we building lovable places? Is what we're doing so great that you love it enough that, you know, you would want to keep that around, and that they would love it so much that people would fight for it. Right.
Yep.
So Jim Kunstler, the writer who has written a lot about new urbanism design over the years, and his first book in that foray was one called The Geography of Nowhere.
He's the lover of Houston, right?
He was always like, if you don't build places that are worth caring about, eventually you build a nation not worth defending.
Wow.
And because that's the mentality that you have. If everything is a throwaway place and people don't really care about the physical place they're living in, then at some point, why do you even care at all?
100. I agree with this 100%. I need to read this book. I've not read this.
He had a blog. He had a blog. He had a. Well, I guess it was a blog.
He still does. Yeah, he still has a blog. And he's written a bunch of books, and he's taken things in a lot of different directions in recent years. But I still like him, find him very entertaining. He pisses a lot of people off. And he does it a lot on purpose.
Well, because let's dive in it for a second if you don't mind, right? Because like as you were talking about that, I was thinking about something. Yeah. I'm not going to name the neighborhood because I want to leave the developer or owner or investors in this, you know, clean. And I don't know them, by the way. But there's a neighborhood that we would all hold very dear in our hearts that probably many of us grew up hanging out in. They have built a self-storage facility in recent years in that neighborhood that is it's a monolith to everything wrong, in my opinion, with the way in which we think about planning, zoning, what we allow, what we don't allow by right, and motive. Obviously, profit motive. It's meeting a need, so therefore it's profitable. So the two go hand in hand.
Right.
It is not pretty. It does not create a sense of place, but it is in a historic neighborhood, right? It's in a historic neighborhood that just, it's there.
Yeah.
There's so many things you could say, right, about that, right, that would piss everyone invested in all, or maybe they don't care because they're making so much money they don't care. But I would imagine your friend here, what's his name?
Oh, the author, Jim Kunstler.
Jim Kunstler. I would imagine he would have big issues with this situation. It is literally a tilt-up concrete panel building that's self-storage in the middle of a bedroom community that was probably, has its roots back to the early 20th century. Central City, a little bit south. You can probably guess what neighborhood I'm talking about. It exists because there is demand and there is a need.
Yeah.
You kind of can't be mad at someone for solving a business problem where there's a need and they can create profit motive. It's the way America works.
Yeah.
However, to your point, like, who's going to fight for this self-storage situation in their community? It's not doing anyone any good.
Yeah.
Right. What do you do with that scenario? Like, I don't know. It's a tough question, right? Because like, that thing is going to happen. And when I say that's in Kansas City, that's in Kansas City, that's in Cleveland, that's in St. Louis, that's in New York. I mean, it's going to happen in the marketplace, right? So like, what do you do with that? Is it just a problem culturally with our society and the way we value either stuff or things or boxes to put those things? I don't know. I think we got to be a little bit careful in how we allow the built environment to be curated, but we also can't interfere to a point of extreme with the way the free market works.
Yeah.
Yes.
Go for it.
Cling, do you? Okay.
Go for it.
When we talked about beauty matter for a place, we talk about a sense of place. The use you just referenced, just to use that as an example.
Yeah. Right? Not trying to pick on self-storage developers.
There are multiple things we could bring up.
We could pick on. Yeah.
It's not as if American cities are reinventing the wheel. It's not as if there's not storage issues in Amsterdam. It's not as if there's not a need for gas stations in Vancouver, British Columbia. These things exist globally. I think, one, we are a very young nation, and therefore we have relatively young cities. I think history is an advantage for the cities we put on a pedestal outside of the United States.
Yeah, no doubt.
They have learned over centuries, maybe even millennia, how to build and maintain their beauty, despite particular uses that I think most of us would turn our nose to, despite changes in uses over time. I think it's really important for us as lovers of cities, lovers of American cities, to learn from those lessons outside of the United States, from cities that have been around for those centuries and millennia. And not to say we don't have our own thing, right? Like, you talked about podcasts that we love. Like, you had one on your travels. I believe you went to Dublin and a few other places. And I like that one because it was not just about judging American cities to European cities negatively, but also owning some of the upsides to American cities.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah.
So to bring this full circle, JCS, is that the citizens, city is just short for citizens, right? Like the citizens make the decision as to how our built environment looks, feels, and acts towards the people who live there, visit there, etc. It's up to us to say, hey, storage facility, the folks need this, right? We need this. There's nothing wrong with that. In and of itself. There's no good, bad to a storage facility, right?
Right.
There is, I think personally, there is good, bad to how it is built and maintained. Right. And those are tough conversations, right?
Yes, like, very much so.
Those are tough conversations.
You and I would agree on this, by the way.
Okay.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. And I would agree on this. I mean, to be clear, a concrete tilt-up structure in the middle of a historic urban neighborhood is less than ideal.
Indeed.
In my opinion. From an aesthetic standpoint, from a beauty standpoint, from an attractiveness standpoint, and long-term viability standpoint. Would not be my first choice. I wouldn't, you know what I mean? I wouldn't like advocate for it. I mean, I'm a commercial lender and I work for an institution, that has to deploy capital. And so I find myself at odds with this every now and then. I try not to get at odds with it, frankly. What do you do in that scenario? Well, maybe you do curate the design of it so that it does fit in with the character of the neighborhood better. Frankly, there's a scale issue, though. I mean, it's on almost half a block, right? So it's like, geez, like there are so many more productive uses, in my opinion, for that half a block. My opinion. Now, are they the highest ROI? No, to be clear, they would not be. Right. Not for the institutional capital that has a profit motivation. So to your point, I agree, right? I'm like with you on the component of, when we think about city planning and we think about what we're going to allow, I think there should be design standards. I think design standards are fine.
100% agree.
Use standards, I get a little iffy on, just because there are some things that I feel like we need to be innovative on, that we need to allow for flexibility. The problem with that, when you allow for that flexibility, you're going to get a self-storage business. You're just gonna, it's just going to happen. So I don't know how you police it to the point where you prevent that from happening, when someone has figured out a business need that they can crack the nut for and also make money. Yeah. It's just a tough scenario. I'm not telling you you're wrong, by the way, and I love this conversation. I'm just telling you I recognize it. I see it. And again, it's one of those things I talked about. You asked me where I'm at now versus where I was 10 years ago. 10 years ago, me would have been like, absolutely not. That should never happen. You got to stop that from happening. We should all be out with signs. Yeah. Today, I'm like, that stuff's going to happen. Right. Now, how it looks, we might be able to affect, but frankly, that's even limited. Just by the way, at least development politics work in our city, because we all know that if somebody has the gumption, they're going to figure out how to build it that works in a way that works for them.
Right. And this is sort of like, this is actually like the central tension in planning and development for about like the last 100 years since we created zoning, which was really then, because pre-zoning, in most places, you could kind of more or less build whatever you wanted, where you wanted. And also we had more of a unified culture of design. So there was more of a shared sense of what was beautiful and attractive. And so even in that area, if you go back, to the 19 teens and 20s, they're looking like the West Bottoms. Those are factories.
Yes.
That we built. That are beautiful.
They're beautiful.
No one would argue.
Beautiful
they're
brick,
absolutely
beautiful
gorgeous.
brick factories.
We built utility buildings that were beautiful.
Right.
All the churches were beautiful.
The power station, River Market, near Columbus Park.
Beautiful.
I mean, they should take better care of it, but it's beautiful.
Yeah. So, that was the era. Since the era starting with zoning, and then especially after World War II with the advent of modern architecture, we've had this persistent conflict about what kind of rules should we have, what's appropriate, what's not appropriate. And we've never really had good resolution on any of that.
Okay, so debate time. Architect, developer, banker, sometimes investor developer, okay? Do you think that we are too lax with regard to design standards from a urban planning perspective. And I'm going to include inner ring suburbs in this because I think it matters. Here's why I think it matters, and then you can answer. Everybody answer. Because our inner ring suburbs, whether we like them or not, because all of us are urbans. We all grew up. I grew up in the city. I grew up literally in the city of St. Louis,
which has beautiful architecture, by the way.
Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that made me fall in love with it. All of us live in the city now. These inner ring suburbs are the next layer of competition, whether we like it or not. And frankly, we should embrace it, because I still go back to I think a stronger core benefits everyone, even if it's inner ring suburbs, because you get a choice, an objective choice standard that still draws people and like mutual benefit to cores, right? Even if it's multimodal around inner suburbs. So should we have within those communities an increased level of police activity, well, not like real police, but like design police activity around standards?
Great question.
All right, you're both looking at me. So
I mean, I could go first, but if
go ahead, Show.
So I think the answer is it depends on what city we're discussing. I would be interested to hear what Kevin has to say in regards to his experience between here and Savannah, which, in my opinion, Savannah is one of the most beautiful cities I've seen, not just in the United States, but globally. I think, not to beat a dead horse, but I'm a huge advocate of beauty. I'm a huge advocate of how that makes people feel when they interact with said place. But also understanding, given the business I'm in, that beauty does come with a cost. So there's a real world balance there. And so I would say we have not done enough. We folks who are within the space in American cities, generally speaking, there are exceptions, Savannah being one of them. We have not done a good job. And I look at the city we all live and love, and I think not quite St. Louis standard, but our architecture historically has also been beautiful.
Kansas City has beautiful architecture.
It's beautiful. And we have done a mediocre, if not piss poor job of preserving some of that architecture and or replicating it. You don't necessarily need to preserve it, but understanding that people who came before us made decisions on the built environment for a reason. And it was just not form, it was function, right? And because of the mighty dollar, in my opinion, I think we have pivoted away from that. And I think part of the lift of our time and our generation is to go back to the future on that. So to answer your question, JCS, yes, I think we pivoted away from it. I don't think it's healthy. I think there's another pendulum swing that's also not healthy. Like you could be too arduous, where people can't build, and that's also not healthy. But I believe where most American cities are, not all, where most American cities are, we're on the opposite pendulum, and we're too loose with our standards for the mighty dollar.
Well, let me see if I can thread the needle to piss off just about everything.
Yeah. Love it.
I don't think design standards can produce good design. And I have not seen that to be the case. What design standards do is they eliminate the worst of the possible design outcomes, generally speaking. But good designs are created by a good client and a good architect. And so I personally, I feel like the challenge we have is less regulatory and more mindset and cultural. In that, I will tell you from my experience, like really great clients, really great developers, they produce really great buildings, and they care about the details. They care about how things look. And when you have crappy clients, it doesn't matter how good of a designer you are, you're not going to produce a good building or a beautiful building. And so first and foremost, what we need are more developers and builders who value design, care about it, want to produce really beautiful places. like as a core part of their value. And if they don't do that, it's not necessarily that the regulations are going to beat them up, but maybe it's like their community is going to shame the hell out of them, or because in the old days, what would happen if you were in Savannah and you built a really ugly building and it was 1882, guess what? You're not getting invited to the annual Christmas party that year.
You're a pariah.
You're a pariah in the community. Yeah. Right. And I'm not saying that's always good. That obviously can go to a bad place too. But the reality is, like, people holding each other accountable as humans to say, do your best, do better. Mm-hmm. That matters more than what a planner working for a city government can do. So that's one aspect of it. And then we need more architects, frankly, who also give a damn about good design. And having been through architecture school and worked with tons of architects, there's an awful lot of architects who are still really hung up on their own ego more than producing good work that like ordinary people are going to think is beautiful. And we're kind of taught to reinforce that. We're kind of educated to value creativity and uniqueness more than just beauty, which is unfortunate about the education of architecture. Not everywhere. There are exceptions to that, but by and large, that's what we see. So I think there's like a culture shift that needs to happen. From a regulation standpoint, my belief has always been to have a light touch, but regulate the 3 or 4 things that really, really matter. So, like, where should the building sit on the lot? How big, or what's the massing or height or whatever that you think is fits for that area. So that was the genesis for what we call form-based codes today, which was less about the use of a building and more about the form that it could take to try to and the purpose of those, very frankly, was to kind of eliminate the suburban design approach and reinforce a more urban approach where buildings are up close to a sidewalk and the parking's in the back, and things fit a context that feels right and makes sense. That didn't always work. It doesn't always work. There are issues to deal with there too, but that was the basic approach that I've always liked. I just really think that in the world that we're in now, it's just harder to do a lot of those things well without people who give a damn. So it's really kind of like back to where we're talking about where things come down to people. It has to start with people who really give a damn and want to do good things. And they see the examples that other people set. Like somebody in Edmond, Oklahoma is going to watch what Austin Tennell is building. Some other young person, they're going to say, I want to do that too, because that is awesome. And it's beautiful and it makes our community better. So I want to do that. And we have to help people do those sorts of things and help them figure out how to make money and make good money doing it, because the ugly stuff is lucrative.
Yep.
The cheap, ugly stuff is really lucrative. And that's
where rubber meets road.
That's the challenge we have.
That's right. That's where rubber meets road. It's unfortunately, most of the time, in order to do what you're referencing, it's expensive and or difficult and cost time.
Yeah.
And so I think where we need the thought leaders in both the private and public sectors need to think about, how do you get there in a relative cost effective way. One question I wanted to follow up with what you shared, Clink, is what do you think America can learn from Savannah? Because again, there are a lot of beautiful cities out there, but in my experience, Savannah's top of the line.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I've argued, I think it's the most beautiful city in the country. It's a combination of the architecture and the landscape. So I think, again, if you go back to culture, there are 2 things. The South is the one part of the country that never stopped building what we might call traditional architecture, which some people might call classical or neoclassical or whatever else. And in fact, even the regular home builders doing production home building in the South build more attractive houses there than they do anywhere else in the country. And there's just a little bit more of a cultural imprint on architecture there than there is, I think, almost anywhere else. Maybe New England too. So that's part of it. And then the other part, certainly the thing I experienced in Savannah was that people really gave a damn. Like when somebody was going to build a new building, so we can argue about whether their processes were good or bad. I've got friends in Savannah who are on both sides of that issue. The historic preservation regulations are as strict there as maybe the strictest in the country. They're intense,
and people do complain about them.
And people complain.
The historic standards.
They're super intense. It's expensive to go through. There's like 3 attorneys in town who everybody hires to get their projects approved. But I'll tell you what happens is when somebody's proposing a new building, like 200 people show up to a planning commission meeting and they're arguing about design and details.
Okay. I'm going to Dame Dash it. Pause.
Yeah.
Pause.
So
pause.
And again, I'm not saying that's like great, good or bad, but that's what happens.
Because as the lowly commercial banker in the room who probably shouldn't be, I'm sure there is even a certain amount of the audience, even though this is like a non-controversial podcast that probably has heard me on this a couple times. Like, what is this effing banker doing on here talking about design? But we're getting controversial. It's episode 100. Okay. So I want to weigh in on this.
Go for it.
Because I have a hypothesis that I want to tease out as we're talking. Because I agree with both of you in various forms. Let me ask you a question. Savannah, everybody shows up. Part of the design process, what amount of it is curated so that you have to have brick veneer or structural brick buildings?
It's just brick. It's not specified as structural brick.
But you got to have a brick veneer.
Well, it depends. There are a lot of variants in that, but in general, yes, it's going to specify in Savannah a really high.
I'm smiling right now.
High level
this
of
is going right down to my hypothesis.
Oh yeah, go for it,
please.
Why do you think we don't have brick veneer buildings in the Midwest?
Well, I mean, they're expensive for one.
Why are they expensive?
The material itself is more expensive to source than a lot of other.
Why is it more expensive to source?
It's not manufactured anywhere nearby, for one.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Guess where brick is manufactured, and brick is a standard
in clay soils.
Bingo.
Yeah.
But it's not as if we didn't have brick.
Yeah.
It's not as if we didn't.
Oh,
I think about our colonnades, right? Again, like we're talking, and sorry for the audience who is not familiar with Kansas City architecture, but we have a specific apartment style called colonnade. We have a historic home style called shirtwaist, right? And that was limestone, which is local,
but also sometimes brick.
Indeed.
Like at least face brick.
But, so historically, and I don't know this answer, I'm throwing this out there as a question to follow up with you, JCS. Mm-hmm. What happened, right? Like if what you're saying is, hey, production in the South continued, and that's why it's easier for Southern cities to build beautiful. In other parts of the country, Midwest being one of them, stopped production.
Yeah.
Then I think the obvious question is why? Like what happened?
Like when my family lived in Oklahoma when I was a very little kid, and my parents would talk about all the houses in Oklahoma were brick. Of course, they're like, they don't have basements and the houses are built of brick. Why is that? Because they make bricks in Oklahoma.
Bingo.
So it's in the clay soil.
We're just diving into one construction means and method and design standard.
Yeah.
We're just doing one today because we're already running long, but I love that we're running long.
Yeah.
It's 100.
My point being, because I've thought about this a lot, and I love your answers because you guys are such students of this. The design standards in the South, or at least in Savannah or that region, are different. My guess is they're sourcing, because today we don't really make structural brick anymore.
No.
We make face brick with the holes in it. For those that don't know what I'm saying, when I say face brick versus structural brick, I'm talking about a 3x5 brick. And they used to make them clay soil, some other ingredients, probably some lime and mortar. Yeah. They hardened them. You put them in a kiln. They fired them. There was a manufacturing process. History fact, everybody can check me. Go back and look at what the largest brick manufacturing plant in the Midwest was. St. Louis.
Oh.
St. Louis is known for their brick. Yeah. St. Louis brick is amazing.
No more brick manufactured in St. Louis.
Yeah.
right? Used to go up and down the Mississippi River, used to go Missouri River, right?
Yeah.
Today in Kansas City, for those who aren't familiar with Kansas City, most of the homes we built from a building envelope perspective, it's going to be 2x4, 2x6 stud frame, depending on energy code, right? Then you're going to have your house wrap, you have your flashing, and you're going to put probably 2 or 3 products on it. Vinyl, which I absolutely hate. Sorry to any clients of mine that put vinyl clad on anything. But I mean, even when I talk to them, they tell me they hate it, but they do it because it's what we have available. You put a Hardy back Hardy siding on, which is that lap siding. Hardy makes a couple synthetic stucco panels. They're very heavy. I did it on a project of mine, my house, my 3rd floor, right? They're very heavy. My carpenters told me they never lift one in the air again. You can do T111 siding, which is the large majority of Johnson County homes built between 90 and probably early aughts have T111 siding. And for those that don't know what T111 is, it is a 4x8 plywood panel, engineered panel with grooves in it. And some of them were produced better than others. The older ones delaminate, they warp, so on and so forth. Or you do a board and batten siding. Those are pretty much the building envelope types that we use by and large in the Midwest. A lot of them come from Georgia or Canada or Mexico, to be clear, right? Because of cost.
Right.
We don't mandate stone. And when we do stone, it is oftentimes still the same like structural process I just named out to the OSB sheathing wrapped in house wrap, and then you put a veneer stone on. Right. Here's why I'm saying all of this. We have really relaxed architectural standards here in the Midwest, especially in Kansas City, by the way, across all the municipalities.
I agree.
That we allow really cheap building materials to be used to clad houses, which creates this. Now, there are other design standards, lot setbacks, lot size that are also part of the issue. But from a sheer building envelope beauty perspective, this is why you don't have a lot of homes built that are brick, because there's no brick built anywhere near to the Midwest that you could source and get here affordably to have an entire. The ones that are Leawood, for instance, that does have some brick standards or some building envelope standards, there are $1.5 million plus.
Well, yeah, and like to the Savannah experience, really just talking about the downtown historic district, and a lot of the new construction activities in the last, say, 20 years, and there again, I would say a big part of the deal is there's a community of people who give a damn and who force better design. Period. But there's no question that everything they're doing is higher end.
Okay.
It's expensive. It's higher end. None of that is for working class level clients.
So let's come full circle.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, here's where I kind of land on it is if you demand better, you might end up with a better outcome. The demanding better, and I can't believe I'm even leaning this way from a regulatory perspective, but if you demand better, then it creates a demand, which perhaps over time you create an industry that supplies what is the standard demand. By like, what if we required brick? And again, this is a big hypothetical thought experiment. Well, could you manufacture brick in the Midwest? I mean, we did at one point. Why can't you now? Right. It's like perhaps you can standardize a certain aesthetic. Perhaps, right? Now, should we? That's another question, right? Because we're in this multivariable situation where we have a housing affordability issue, we have a housing supply issue, all of these different things. I'm not so sure that we should mandate it, right? But it actually speaks to a larger issue around, let's go into the housing affordability issue. You and I have talked about this around housing because you and I are both passionate about this issue. You can't convince me that we can't build a house that is 1,300 to 1,800 square feet and that people wouldn't buy it brand new construction. It makes no sense to me in the world. We talked about this on the last podcast. I said I might have to go out and try because you can't convince me that that there's not demand for it. Yet the housing we do build
is 2,000 plus square feet with odd lot setbacks and separations, so that the only thing you can build is a $500,000 house to make any money. Like, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
I think one of the interesting questions is like the lifestyle inflation question, which is, when I think about when I was born, I was the fourth of four kids, and we were living in Omaha, Nebraska in a 1,200 square foot ranch house, 3-bedroom ranch house with 2 parents and 4 kids. And that was actually kind of the norm in that era. And I know my parents would have certainly loved a bigger house, and they eventually got bigger houses. But it's not like they were unhappy.
Right.
Right. And so the question is, like, today, can you build that same exact house, and will the market accept it? Because there's such a market, preference now for these much bigger houses than people really use.
Housing formation size has decreased by at least 30 to 50%.
Yeah.
There's less people living in one house than ever before in our history.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I get what you're saying, and I know you're not arguing with me, but like, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. We have politically and policy-wise, legislatively, by letting planning and zoning commissions across the city and across the suburbs just go completely out of control.
Yeah.
The reason why we're in this issue, or we're in this situation, to be clear, is because we have allowed planning and zoning commissions around the country to lose their absolute minds and do just the most ridiculous things from a standard standpoint.
Yeah.
We should both, I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but we should, one, if you want to solve the affordability crisis, start with the regulatory issues. And if you want more beautiful housing or more beautiful buildings, start with regulatory issues. Like, I don't understand, because here's the thing. To your point, I'm actually worried. The phrase you just uttered about their buddy, and I can't remember his name again, but if we don't have a country that we love and places that we love, then why will we fight for it?
Yeah.
Again, without trying to piss too many people off, there are some communities and some neighborhoods and some municipalities in this town that, man, how does anybody fall in love with them? Why? Because they love cheap shit, excuse my language, and being able to go to Target with shitty ingress and egress.
Yeah.
It's like, what are we doing?
It needs to be said.
What are we doing? We don't need all this shit.
Yeah.
We don't need it.
Yeah.
It needs to be said.
We need people. We should value people over shit, over stuff.
Yeah.
Why do we care so much about having X amount of retail thoroughfare, and we don't, and the ingress and egress makes no sense whatsoever, right? It's horrible to get there. I guess if you live out there, I guess it's great, but we don't need that. What we need is people. The reason why we're at this division in this country, in my opinion, is because we get to abscond from the responsibility of loving our neighbor and loving other people around us and spending time with them, not passing them at Target or Walmart or Kohl's, buying things we don't need in places that are too big and are too inefficient for us to even really, you know what I mean? Come on.
JCS is out here preaching. He's out here preaching. I'll say this, and it's going to sound counter to what JCS has said, but it's actually not at all. My wife and I, sister-in-law, and a friend just got back from the Pacific Northwest. So we flew into Eugene, stayed there for a couple days, went to Portland, stayed there for a couple days, Seattle, Victoria, Vancouver, British Columbia. Okay. I'm going to use the example of Vancouver. So out of all the places we visited, we really enjoyed ourselves. But Vancouver has a sense of place. It has form and function. But as opposed to the brick concept that JCS had just referenced, and you all might know this, they are known for quote unquote Vancouverism. There's books written about it, the whole nine.
Yeah.
And the look, the aesthetic, the sense of place of Vancouverism is actually glass. It's not brick.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's glass.
Cool.
So they're one of the few cities, at least in North America, maybe globally, I don't know, in which sightlines, views are zoned, right?
Wow.
So folks who live in the urban core of Vancouver want to see the mountains, they want to see the water because it's I
beautiful.
think inarguably one of the best natural settings of a
gorgeous.
major city on the planet. Okay. So irrelevant of what you think about thin glass buildings, there's both form and function to Vancouver, given that experience, given that code, if you will, on viewshed and whatever else is built into their code. My argument, and this argument is in support of what you're saying, despite the example that I gave, which is somewhat counter to the brick narrative, is that folks had built our built environment, our being Kansas City, just to use Kansas City as an example because it's the one we know, based on 4 seasons, based on the natural environment, based on everything that is here. And we pivoted away from that for cost, right? And in some ways, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think affordability is also something that we all have to think about. But ultimately, long term, I think that's to our detriment. I think that the things that have happened in most American cities are for cost. And it gets away from beauty, from form, but actually it also gets away from function, right? And there's a reason why we had colonnades with the you could sit out on your porch that's covered because our weather's crazy, right? There's a reason why we built limestone because that's a natural material within our region. There's a reason why we have particular setbacks because it gets super humid in the summer, it gets very cold in the winter, so on and so forth, right? And I use Vancouver intentionally because it's almost the exact opposite of the materials and the setbacks that we're talking about, but the intention's the same. The intention is this is the environment in which Vancouver sits in. So let's work with it and not against it. And that is ultimately my big beef.
I agree with everything you just said. And I think to another point, again, going back to, I don't remember what episode it was. We're going to call it 126. It wasn't 126. Go back and look at the notes. When we're talking about like the drugstore issue, and my issue is like you're closing the drugstore down, and that's going to impact older folks in the neighborhood who rely on that to get their prescriptions. That was a suburban style drugstore in the middle of an urban neighborhood, which was your gripe, which I get. My issue was that served a function for that community where that is folks on a limited income now have to travel 3, 5, 10 miles, maybe more to get prescriptions. We're actually more times than not on the same page. My only commentary around this is I think both things can be true. I think we have to balance the equation because what you just said a minute ago is that we have done this to our long-term detriment. That I 100% agree with. But it takes what you said is we need more people involved in caring about people more than the profit motive, right? The profit makes it sustainable. You got to make money.
Absolutely.
So I want everybody to be clear here because I don't want people to walk away with this podcast and go, well, JCS, Shomari, and Kevin said, just go do whatever you want to do and the world's going to be great. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we have to try. This is life. Like we're talking, this is a very philosophical podcast. I hope your listeners will appreciate this podcast. They might be like, well, I didn't get anything valuable out of this today.
Who knows?
Right. But it's like, this is the essence of life. You have to try. You have to try to balance the equation somehow. Well, that's the point.
Well, let me frame it just a little bit differently. Because again, I think this is the central tension in planning and development that we've had for 100 years since we started regulating development at the municipal level. Pre-zoning, every small town, every big city in the country was built in a fairly similar fashion. The sort of stuff that like the three of us tend to like.
Right.
Not everybody else likes, but we tend to like it.
Right.
Classic main streets, walkable neighborhoods, etc. What I would say is all of those places were built by absolutely hardcore capitalists, just like the capitalists in development today. And it was just there was a different approach to building it all and designing it all. And there were different inputs, and there was a different culture at the time.
Yes.
Around building and development and communities. So I don't think the two things are necessarily at odds with each other. It's just we've kind of artificially put them at odds with each other. And we've got to figure out a way to, if you really, I think to your point, profit is what makes it sustainable. If we want these things to work, we've got to figure out how to engineer a process again and a supporting culture that makes that profitable and sustainable, because that's the only way you're going to ever scale anything.
That's right.
And so that's, I mean, ultimately that's the task for people to kind of figure out for going forward, is how do you do that?
That's right.
So I should probably work towards wrapping this. Unfortunately,
we can't do 2.5.
This was a record.
We cannot do.
No, we've already are we already there?
No, we're almost at 2.
An hour and a half,
because we started at 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, we're
ish.
You know, plus that bottle's getting a little dry.
Yeah.
So
cheers to West Bottoms.
West Bottoms.
Shout out to West Bottoms Whiskey,
That's
official
right.
sponsor. Give them a sponsor.
Last question. As you think about just your own endeavors, are you still excited for the future, excited what possibilities there are, or are you cautious? How do you feel about just your own, as you think about your own endeavors?
I'm going to let Shomari go first.
Sure. I am cautiously optimistic about the endeavors. Again, it's a dream come true in a lot of ways. It's been much more difficult than 2016 Shomari would have imagined. But at the end of the day, the passion leads the projects. And despite the difficulty in the process, we're still here. We've accomplished much. We need to accomplish more. And it's beyond what myself and my partners want. It's about what the community wants. And ultimately, it's about the greater good of the city, of Kansas City, of the city that I think myself and my partners and other folks who are involved in our projects it's about those goals and passions collectively, and that's the driver, and that gets us through the difficult parts, right? And so I think in that regard, so long as that momentum continues, there are no regrets.
Or is your excitement different than 10 years ago today?
I think the naivety is gone. I think that I don't think the way to say it is that the excitement is different. I would say that as I began my answer, it's more cautious optimism as opposed to naive optimism. And obviously, I didn't know I was naive at the time.
Yeah.
Right. But there's some realism, and I think JCS said this earlier. There's some realism once you go through these experiences. But again, I'm thoroughly convinced, and we're kind of getting into the details of Kansas City and its nuance and its history, but I'm thoroughly convinced that the city that I'm third generations of and that I love and have put some blood, sweat, and tears in, I'm thoroughly convinced that its best days are ahead, and part of its best days relates to the district in which we've invested in. There are others, right? It's not just the Vine District. There are others, but it is one of them, and that's a driver, and it helps get through some of the very difficult stuff that I think we face. So no regrets, right? No, like I'm definitely 10 toes down on continuing. I think that if I had to do it over again, I would do the same exact thing with more caution. I think it's the best way that I can verbalize it. No.
All right.
How about you?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm very excited. It's a weird thing. I get involved in a lot of different things, and I have my day job which has its own challenges and possibilities. But then there's other things that I do on the side like this. So yeah, I probably have more excitement and optimism now than I've had in a while for just things that I'm working on, possibilities. So it's also weird because I don't feel older, but I also know what my age is, and I know what happens ultimately to people, and I've seen it, many friends and family members, and so I feel a bit of a clock in my head.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Well, you look great. Maybe the confusion is you have a whole set of hair.
Yeah.
So it's
and I feel good. I feel
take
healthy.
Care of yourself.
I feel healthy. I feel good.
Yeah.
But I also am like, well, let's imagine I've got X number of like really productive years left. What am I going to do with it?
Sure.
Not to say that I won't have other happy years, but that's just the reality. I've seen my parents age and pass away, and and I know what happens when you get older. And there does come a point where it's just really hard to be productive.
Well, you lost your mom in the last 12 months, I think.
It's about a year and a half.
About a year and a half ago. That's right. Yeah, I remember it came to the awakening.
Yeah. So
I'm going to say this real quick, just because it's episode 100, and maybe some listeners don't know what you fully do in Kansas City, and elsewhere for that matter. Obviously, we've talked about Savannah. Kansas City's blessed to have you, right? Because there are some things that folks who are within this space and outside the space, for that matter, know what you do, and there are some, as a friend, there are some things that you do that are highly influential that not many people know that you do, and you do it for little to no pay, and you do it because of your passion for the city and the built environment, and more significantly, the people, the community.
Yeah.
And so, as episode 100 wraps up, I want to share that. I want to put it on record and know that people see you, and it's honored, and we are thankful.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Thanks. All right, Jason, you excited for the future, for what's next for you?
Yes. I think as we talked about this on this very philosophical podcast, as we think about, where we've been and where we're to go. And I think we're very fortunate in being able to be blessed to be vertical. It's always another chance to do it again.
Yeah.
And as I think about the things that can happen in the next chapter of my life, I'm very optimistic. There's going to be challenges. It's going to be difficult. However, I'm a big fan of doing mental health work, and I've been through a lot in my life. Not to like spill my guts here on this podcast, but I come from very humble beginnings. One of the things I've delved into recently and thinking about life and thinking about in the way we process trauma and we process our life experiences is when you've been through a lot, it's easy to kind of go like, oh my gosh, like poor me, man, where would I have been if I didn't go through this stuff? Or look at what I've overcome and I'm still standing. Mm-hmm. So we're still standing, right? What do we do with that? Well, let's do something good with it. And that's really my objective, is in this next chapter of my life, what do I do that's really good, right? That I can be proud of. Not proud of from a material possession perspective. Again, I admonish certain folks in our local community here for living in areas where they do and where cheap stuff is readily available. We all like stuff. Again, there's no wrong or right with regard to desires of the heart per se. It's when you prioritize things that won't bring you happiness. And I just want to prioritize things that bring me and the people around me happiness. And one of those things is, as you so intimately put it, is being a change maker and a catalyst towards building community. If there's anything I do with the time I have left on this earth, and I'm only 43, by the way, people are probably thinking I'm like this like old like fogey here.
Yeah, you got a bunch of years in front of you, man.
But that's really my life's intent, right? Like, it is curating community. And I like to think that the bricks and sticks can play a component in that as long as it's beautiful. And that's what I want to spend my time doing, it either by virtue of banking or my development career. I want to be a factor in helping bring about community. And I think community is something in which there is no shortage of supply in. And so guess what? The opportunities are abundant.
Yeah.
And so I am very optimistic.
Very well said. That's true.
Oh,
All of that's true. Very well said. All right, fellas.
Wow.
This was a lot of fun. We should do this more often. All right. I am really fortunate to know both you guys, be friends with you. So I appreciate you doing this. And thanks for doing episode 100 with us.
Indeed.
It's an honor. It's an honor.
All right. We will continue the conversation. Thanks.
Yes.
See ya.